Shabbat Shalom, friends. How are you all doing after Rosh Hashanah? You, the committed Amcha who is here for the Shabbat in between the Jewish holidays. That's something. Allie and I came and there were no cars that we saw, and so we were wondering what tonight's minyan was going to look like. And it's filled out some. But how are you all doing? How are you all feeling?
Great.
Thank you. Aaron is feeling great. I'm really glad to hear that. What's feeling great to you right now, Aaron?
It was 82 degrees today and sunny.
It was 82 degrees and sunny. What more can you ask out of paradise and out of life? Well, this week we find ourselves in Shabbat Shuvah, as we talked about earlier. Why is this Shabbat Shuvah? This is one of these special named Shabbatot. There's a handful of them throughout the year. Why Shabbat Shuvah? What is that about? Does somebody want to tell me about Shabbat Shuvah? Tell all of us about it, for that matter. Josh does. Before you even saw that, Josh, my man, go ahead.
Well, it's probably because it's between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur when we do our, ask for forgiveness and do our tshuva.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I think that's the main reason.
So we do our tshuva right now.
It's a recognition that this is of the time period, and it's Shabbat, so it's a Shabbat. It's still a Shabbat during the tshuva period.
Okay, so what does tshuva even? Yeah. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Oh, it's good.
No, it's good.
Well, it's a Aseret Yemei Tshuva.
Okay, Aseret 10 Yemei days of tshuva.
Which is first day of Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippur.
Okay.
So this is the Shabbat in the middle.
Great, very good. What is tshuva? Somebody I heard whisper repentance. Okay. That is 100% the sort of traditional reading of that. Does anybody have a different possibility of what teshuva might mean? Yes, Josh.
Well, it means return, but I was always kind of returning to a certain level of purity or consciousness.
Okay, so let me ask.
Your behavior during the year and your relationships and so forth.
Go ahead, Anna.
Oh, I'm Jess.
Jess, I'm sorry I called you by your sister's name. My apologies. Jess, thank you.
So I've actually been volunteering at the Hebrew school on Sundays, and I've seen what my mom is doing with Kita Vav.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, she's breaking it down for them into understandable steps for kids. Step one.
It's a 4-part. Yep, go ahead.
Admit it, apologize, fix it, and don't do it again.
That's right. I was actually in with Hamora Karen for a little bit of that lesson as well. How do you break down this whole enterprise act of teshuva, this thing that you're supposed to do before as part of the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah? Well, you will admit that you did it, apologize for it, fix it, don't do it again. Good.
Sounds a little Catholic.
Sounds Catholic to Josh.
But of course they stole anything.
I was going to say we did it first.
Right.
Allison, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that actually the Catholic, you can keep doing it as long as you keep on repenting.
Right, and then you just say a lot of Hail Marys.
Well, no.
Friends, having never been Catholic before myself and never been a priest for that matter, I am not situated to weigh in on this, but
said, go forth and sin no more. Isn't that part of it?
Yeah, but
Well,
don't
that's
you just
probably
light
the
a
goal.
candle in church and you're done?
I love that on Shabbat Shuvah we're sitting around theorizing what is it that the Catholics do to say that they're sorry. But back to Judaism. Yes, Aaron.
I was going to say we could go across the street to the church.
I was going to say if you ask nicely they might give you a demonstration, but here we are at Shabbat. Yes. To step away from Catholicism.
So I have a question though.
Go ahead.
The steps make a lot of sense.
Those 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to acknowledge or recognize you did something wrong.
Great.
And if you don't, oh well, there's
Great.
nothing more to do. But the fix it part is what I see as challenging because, I guess depending on how we define fixing, some things you can't fix. You can't, repair, like what does repair look like? It's funny because I just got an image. If you're familiar with, I think it's a Japanese art of they fill in broken things with gold.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. What's that called?
I don't know.
Okay, the
But-
Japanese
but
art of
it
like
is-
fixing
it
the
is
broken
an art because
vase,
broken
like or
things
whatever.
are
Yeah.
beautiful and you're enhancing them, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's a kind of fixing that is radically different than something that you can't see. And I don't know, somehow that just seems like it doesn't.
Your
So-
clients know that you feel that way?
I don't have any clients.
Okay, currently, I guess.
I'm
But
not
you-
a therapist.
You haven't, okay.
I've never been a
No?
therapist.
No.
No.
Well, my clients don't know how I feel about it for that
Research
matter.
and theory.
Friends.
Research and theory. But it, you know, some things, even if you hurt someone's feelings, how do you fix that? Like you can apologize and say you're sorry. But
Yeah.
Does that fix it?
So I want to spend a moment with that and with that other piece that Josh was talking about with tshuva. Is it a return or is it something different? In other words, are you going back and reverting to something that you should be or you were at one point or you were originally, or returning to the thing? Let me finish real quick before we argue the point, and it's going to be a great argument. I can't wait for it. Or are you embarking on something new? Is it something actually different, in as much as, and to use the metaphor here of the broken vase that is repaired in this Japanese art form with gold filling in the cracks, have you in fact created something entirely different that you're not actually, it's not a recreation of the thing, it's not a return, it's something new? What do you think, friends? Are you going back or are you going forward? Cheryl has thoughts.
I have a lot of thoughts. Yeah. So my thoughts are that it all depends.
Okay.
So I think if it depends on where you work. So in some cases, it's a growth opportunity.
Okay.
You are becoming more pure, to use a word that was mentioned earlier, or you're returning to the way you are supposed to be, kind and, you know, all of the attributes that we're supposed to be when apparently you weren't, at least in one instance. So for someone who may have been that way, but for some reason that was a bad day or life was being really difficult and they did some things that weren't particularly nice, it would be returning to something perhaps that they were. But for someone who hasn't particularly been that way and might regularly and perpetually be rude and obnoxious, it wouldn't be a return to what they were, because that would just be more of the same. It would be returning to what we're supposed to be, or what God indicates that we're supposed to be.
So in a word, to summarize for some of the folks here on Zoom who may not be able to hear unless I repeat it back to them, it depends on where you start.
Yeah.
Okay? Go ahead, Jess.
For me, Teshuvah
Yeah.
has always been so much about introspection and growth.
Okay, so that sounds a little bit newer.
Yeah, it's like she was saying about it's not necessarily returning to something that you were, but maybe a turning, a changing to something better. Stretching.
Okay, and when I hear that word growth, stretching towards something new, growth, that to me sounds like newness, like innovation of a sort. Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking of an analogy with like a computer or a cell phone. You know, there's return to factory setting and then there's updates.
Ah,
So
I would not have thought about it along those terms. I
I
appreciate
guess
that.
what we are trying to do is something closer to an update. Like when you get updated, it also is trying to remove bad things that your software might have accumulated over time. Yeah, it's not bringing you back, but it also then adds stuff, so it's a little.
Okay, so for our friends on Zoom who might not have been able to hear Josh actually made the analogy in thinking about whether we are turning back to something or we are growing forward into something new. He said it's a little bit like your cell phone. Are you pressing the factory reset button to bring it back to its original state, or are you doing the update so it has the newer software, it moves forward into the chain of things? Howard.
Is it about you or is it the person that you offended?
To repeat what Howard was saying, is it, we'll come back to that, is it about you or the person you have offended or wronged or whatever? By it, I am going to suppose that Howard is referring to this whole teshuva paradigm. So in that sense, this question of are you turning back or are you growing forward? Well, are you doing this to, let me see if I have this right, Howard. Are you helping the other person grow forward in spite of the way in which you might have hurt or damaged them? Or are you helping them return to a better point in your relationship before that damage was even done? He's nodding yes.
Well, what I meant is, you injured a person,
Yeah.
and you can't make him well again, but you can repay him financially.
Okay.
And make his life easier. So that's helping the person, or are you worrying about, I should be better, I'm better because I recognize that I did wrong?
So we'll use, to Howard's point, the classical sort of like Torah imperative around justice, eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The way you make restitution with somebody is you have that damage then done back to you.
I mean.
I'm just saying that's what Torah is saying. The rabbis in the Talmud say, no, that's not what that means. The rabbis in the Talmud argue that, and they say, no, that actually has to do with financial equivalency. It has to do with making restitution. We're not actually putting out people's eyes or knocking their teeth out. It's how do you make them whole, essentially. And in fact, the Hebrew word for to pay somebody, l'shalem, it's the same word as shalom. Exactly. It's to make the relationship, the transaction, the interaction whole, essentially, in that place. So is it a matter of doing something, if you're paying restitution, does that actually restore them to their previous state?
No, it can't.
It can't.
In most instances, it can't.
So if it can't, must we then necessarily be in a place where it can only move forward? I'm not getting a lot of positive feedback here. And frankly, I'm not super sold on that either. And the reason I'll say that is, what about those additions we have in our Amidah for Shabbat Shuvah? Zochreinu l'chaim melech chafetz b'chaim v'katvenu b'sefer chaim l'mancha Elohim chaim. That first word, Zochreinu l'chaim. What is that? Remember. Thank you. Remember. The whole thing starts with looking backwards. Go ahead.
I know I've been talking a lot, but
It's cool. Me too.
You're supposed to.
Well, yeah, it comes with the territory, yeah.
I think it's absolutely both. It's
Okay.
about the person you've wronged
Yeah.
and trying to make it right. And it's also about taking a look at yourself and growing and no longer being the kind of person who would have done that. Like taking steps forward. And it doesn't have to be either or.
Going back to perhaps what was pure in the relationship, but also in that sense, trying to grow beyond being a person who does that, or grow beyond a state in which you might be so inclined, or it might be intuitive or reflexive to do the wrong thing. Josh.
I think there are also rules in Judaism about not just asking for forgiveness, but accepting it. Like if you are required, not at the first attempt necessarily, not, and certainly not if the apology is perfunctory, but a sincere apology given over time and effort, you're required to accept it. And then if you don't, the perpetrator is, at least by Jewish law, is absolved if the victim, let's call it, is unwilling to engage.
So that second part, so just to recap that for just a second. Josh saying that according to these rules of tshuva within Judaism, one has this invitation to apologize 3 times. And if the aggrieved party doesn't forgive them after these 3 times, that person who tried to apologize those 3 times is still absolved.
So what happens when it continues on? This is a particular circumstance where one man got another man thrown out of yeshiva. And after years and years of him apologizing, the other man still would not accept his apology. And this went on for much longer than the 3 times. it ate into the man who was wrong, but he would not forgive. So how does that move
Well,
forward?
did he offer any?
So,
comp-
as a observation, one of the things we have from Mishnah Yoma regarding this whole idea of forgiveness and apology is this concept of tshuva bein adam l'makom or tshuva bein adam l'chavero, which is a shorthand for saying, is it cool between you and that person, or is it cool between you and God? And in other words, in that particular situation you're describing, in which this person for years is trying to apologize and it's not possible to get forgiveness, or imagine a situation in which the aggrieved party, the injured party dies and can no longer, there's no one to get forgiveness from, or something like that. Some of those things don't repair the damage bein adam l'chavaro, between people, but they might theoretically, within the construct of Yoma, address what's broken between you and God. And so from that standpoint, there may not actually be a condition of peace between those two people, but the person who has done wrong in that sense, theoretically, by this idea from Yoma, can at least turn to the Blessed Holy One and do some of the Yom Kippur thing from there. The other thing about that Mishnah Yoma piece is the order of it. That one is supposed to get forgiveness bein adam l'chavero, between people, before you go do the God thing. Before you show up and do the al chetz and the ashamnu and all of that stuff, you actually have to repair it in this world before God is interested in hearing that other piece of it. But if you've reached a point where you're at an impasse in this world, well then yeah, you can theoretically turn to the holy place around that. I'm not sure we have mastered a unified field theory of tshuva for tonight, but I did want to offer that binary as something to take with you into Yom Kippur. As you embark on this thing, we do a lot of this stuff collectively, right? Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, new, it means us. But a lot of that's also going to happen silently, in your own confession, in your own space, with your own ideas and presence of what is holiness in this world, whatever that might be. And so I want to offer you that as a question to take with you into Yom Kippur. Do you need to return to something, or do you need to grow forward in a different direction as you're contemplating the stuff that you're mulling over and turning and returning and playing with? Like I said, mulling over these things like keys in your pocket or coins or something like that, feeling some of the al-chet material, thinking about what it is that's lying heavily with you. Are you returning, or are you growing forward? They're not mutually exclusive. The one does not preclude the other, but I want to offer that as a paradigm to reflect on when you find yourself in that quiet space of, is this a thing in which I am hoping to turn into return, or is this a thing where I need to forge new ground in that sense? There's no right or wrong with it, but I just want to offer you that to take with you. Shabbat Shalom.